Well, I want to thank you all for being here today. My name is Triffany Hammond. I have the website and blog, triffsx.com. And I wanted to just share some ideas with you about creating good, solid, actionable goals for 2010. I know a lot of people, my students in particular, new year, you get really excited about what's coming up, and you're really going to dig in this year and make trading happen. And inevitably, the universe conspires against you and everything blows up. Your goals seemed like pie in the sky when they seemed so reasonable back when you made them and all that good stuff. So I thought what we could do today is really spend some time together talking about what makes sense in terms of putting good goals together. What does good goal creation mean, and how can we make it something that we are able to take action on and actually achieve them? We do have such a tendency when we're feeling fresh and renewed and we've got the new year ahead of us, we've got a nice break behind us, holiday breaks from work. Maybe we do have snow and we're all, cuddled up at home and feeling good and warm and ready to start things anew and fresh. But what has a tendency to happen is as soon as we do that, real life takes over. And what I'm going to help you do is kind of put some things in place that will help you kind of make goals that are going to make sense in the context of real life. I heard this once. I wish I could remember who said it or where I read it, but it makes sense. The difference between a dream and a goal is the plan. It's one thing to say you want to accomplish X, Y, and Z by the end of 2010. It's quite another to say, yeah, I want to make this goal, but here's what I'm going to do to get there, right? That's the piece that's missing for most people. I want a new job. I want to lose weight. I want to, I don't know what the next thing is. I mean, everybody always kind of has sort of the same goals, right? All of these things, they're great, and it's wonderful to say that this is what you want. It's wonderful to lay out that intention, put it out there, but it cannot stop there. What you need next is something in front of you that's going to help you get there, right? It has to be something that reminds you, A, that you made the goal in the first place, so it's going to keep you focused and kind of aligned with your original goal in the first place. It's going to have different layers and elements to it that you're going to motivate yourself to get from this place to that place, to the next level, to the next level. If we could treat our lives like we treat the things that distract us from our lives, books, television, video games, where we're constantly waiting, what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next. If we can do that for ourselves, and treat ourselves in that manner where we're constantly asking, we're excited about our own lives, we're engaged in our own lives. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? That's what we get to map out for ourselves right now at the beginning of the year, and that's what makes this so exciting. And then what you have when you've laid out this plan a week from now, a month from now, 6 months from now, at the end of the year, you get to look back and go, yeah, I accomplished this, I accomplished that, I accomplished this, and you get to look back and measure yourself by all of the progress you've made. And let me tell you, there's nothing more motivating than knowing that you're making progress. It's so frustrating to kind of have this sort of dangling carrot that you put out there for yourself, this goal that you sort of have out there that you don't ever really move toward. And then it just becomes this burden. It becomes a guilt thing. Yeah, I should be doing that. Yeah, I know I've wanted that for years and never made it happen. And then you start to feel bad about yourself, and it has the opposite effect, right? So the idea is that you want to put things in place that make it something you can do. You don't want it to overwhelm you. You don't want it to be a burden on you. You don't want it to be something that feels unrealistic. And you don't want it to be something that actually serves to detract your efforts. A lot of times, especially when we're talking about 4X goals and 4X planning, if people put something on their plan like I have to make so much money by the end of every week, what that can do is it can cause them to be impatient with their trading, force trades, and actually create a situation where you're losing. So what you have to be able to do is say, these are the things that creating a plan can do for me. A lot of people, as soon as somebody says you should do this, immediately, even if it was what they wanted to do before, suddenly they don't want to do it anymore, right? I'm actually kind of one of those people. I like options. I'll be the person that, I'm going to go do that thing and somebody goes, hey, would you take care of this? I'm like, huh, no. So that's something I have to be careful with myself when I put things together, that I'm not shooting on myself. I want to feel like I'm creating options, creating opportunities as opposed to removing them. Let me see if there's any questions about anything I've said so far. No. Okay. So what's the best way to make a plan? A lot of this is going to really depend on your own psychology, on your own ability to build up or scale down, right? I like to start with the year. If there's something I want to have accomplished by the end of the year, I like to start with that. And then I say, okay, I've got 12 months in a year. What do I want to have accomplished at the end of each month that's going to take me closer and closer to that goal? And then the next question is, okay, I have 4 weeks in every month. What do I want to be able to do? What do I want to know that I've accomplished each week that's going to take me to my monthly goal? And then I actually have for myself a daily checklist of things that I know are going to get me to my weekly goal. So suddenly all that's left in front of me is this thing posted to my wall that I can say, yes, I did this. Yes, I did this. It's just a few things. It's very simple because my Forex planning, or my Forex plan is not the only plan I have for the year, right? So I want to keep it simple. I don't want to keep it so big that it's overwhelming. And suddenly I have these few things I'm doing every single day. Really easy to integrate. And I can look back on the week and I can say, are these things, did my daily goals get me to my weekly goal? If the answer is yes, then at the end of the month I get to check, is my weekly goal getting me to my monthly goal? Then I know I'm on the right path toward getting to my yearly goal. And that's what works for me. Some people, if they start with the year, that's just way too overwhelming, or they don't even know, is it going to take them a year to double their account? Is it going to take them a year to, whatever the goal is, whatever that thing is? They don't even know if that's even feasible within the year, so they'll start with the day. I don't know where it's going to get me, but I know I need to put some pieces in place that keep me accountable to myself that I do every single day. Okay, and then you start with that. If I did these things every single day, what would that look like at the end of a week? Okay, that seems like a reasonable goal. I'll write that one down next. And then you do that for the month, and then you do that for the year. So whether or not it's easier for you to scale up or scale down in terms of your thinking, what's really, really important here is that you do one or the other, because if you only have a goal, if you only have something that you want to accomplish by the end of the year, you haven't really created a plan. You don't really know what those little baby steps are in between that are going to get you to that point. And if you don't know that, the plan is going to be overwhelming. It is going to be too much to handle. And you're going to be so bogged down by just the feeling of, I don't even know what to do, that you're not going to do anything at all, right? What's also important is that you make sure that the goals that you have in front of you are things that you can actually achieve. If you don't know for sure today that you can double your account by the end of the year, don't make that your goal. Here's what's important. It might be possible for you to do that. It might be, right? But here's where the disconnect happens. If you write that down on your goal, on your plan, on your, your resolution sheet, whatever it is, if you write that down and your own psychology doesn't believe it, if your own belief system doesn't recognize that as not even a possibility but a probability, you will be fighting yourself the entire every step of the way. The entire process will be a battle between what you think you're trying to do and what you really honestly underneath all of those layers believe that you can do. So make sure your goals are something that falls in line with what you believe is possible in the realm of trading. I hope that you really understand how important that is. Let me give you a scenario. If you put something out there like double my account by the end of the year, and your belief system, maybe you've been trading for 2-3 years and you don't even know how to become consistently profitable yet. You know that so-and-so Joe Blow claims that he's doubled his account in 6 months. And you go, okay, so by a year that should be possible. And you say, no, I believe that's possible because Joe Blow said he did it in half that time. But if you haven't even seen consistent profits in your own trading yet, you have an underlying belief system that doubling your account is probably not possible, at least not possible for you right now in current conditions, right? So what's going to happen is no matter what you put down, no matter how far you break down your goals to a daily checklist or whatever you're going to break that down to, every time you look at that list, there's going to be a part of your psyche that says, why bother? I can't even get profitable. Why bother? This isn't going to get me there. I can't double my account by the end of the year. Why even waste my time trying to back test, trying to make sure I understand the fundamental picture, trying to, whatever the things are on your list. And if your psyche is saying that, you are going to find every distraction in the world to keep you from actually following those goals, following those steps. And you might even be able to kid yourself that what you're doing is helping you. Oh, but I read the paper. Oh, but I read 3,000 blogs today and attended 95 million webinars during the week. I'm working toward my trading. But if you're not doing the things that you need to do to get you to that next point, that weekly goal, that monthly goal, hopefully at the end of the year, your yearly goal, then you put yourself right back in that same old cycle that you've been in this entire time you've been trying to learn how to trade. And for those of you who are brand new, this is going to keep you from making those mistakes. This is going to keep you from creating those cycles in the first place. If you're brand new and you're fresh to this, be really thankful that you have a chance to really, truly have a fresh start, because I'll tell you, it's really frustrating for people who've been trying to trade for years. And I do mean years. And it's frustrating. These people hear these success stories. Oh, so-and-so figured it out in months, and I'm a smart person. Why can't I figure it out? And I've been trying to do it for years, and they keep coming back to it. They keep trying to just struggle with it. And they've just created this never-ending cycle of abuse to themselves. If you are brand new to this, keep this in mind. I want you to hear years. It takes years to master this. So don't set your expectation up that you're going to be able to do this in weeks. Maybe it's the few weeks you have before your layoff, right? I'm going to get this. That way when I'm laid off, this is just what I'm going to do. Or maybe you're already laid off and you're trying to learn this while you're collecting unemployment so that you can just start to do this once that's over. You put this time frame on yourself and you expect so much from yourself. Don't do that. Don't do that. You've taken years and years to become whatever it is you are today. It takes years and years to become something new. Okay. Let me see if there's any questions or comments. Ash says, that's me. You're not alone, Ash. Brave little soul. Adding that to the comments. Yeah, you're not alone. You're really not. This happens to most everyone. And then even those people that say they figured it out in a couple months' time, I always wonder if they're telling the truth. Really? I'd like to see your trading results, and I'd like to see that it was being traded with real money. I have such a hard time even believing that. So let's talk about what works well in a plan. Kind of along the lines that we talked about in terms of understanding the difference between that great big goal that you set at the end, what you want to have happen overall. And remember, we don't want to forget that that's our goal. It's totally fine to visualize what it's going to feel like to be there. It's completely fine to hold that intent. It just can't stop there, right? So we want to be able to say that we have this goal out there, great. But what we really want to put our focus on is all of the little benchmarks that we put in place for ourselves along the way toward getting that goal. Because I'll tell you what, it feels a lot better to say, yay, I accomplished this. Even if it's a small goal. I earned 5% this week, or I spent, my last 4 weeks have been profitable. Even if it's just by a penny, who cares? I've been in the black for 8 weeks in a row. Whatever that next goal is, right? It feels so good to be able to say, I've done it. And then you build on that positive energy. You build on the belief system that says you can. This is something you can accomplish. And when you're building on a belief system that says you can, over time, it overwhelms that belief system that says you can't. Do you understand how huge that is? What people don't understand about what it takes just to recreate one portion of your life, it really does take reforming those inner belief systems. I call them internal contracts. I talk about them with my students all the time. These internal contracts. What's your internal contract about, money in general? What internal contracts do you have? What have you agreed to feel about money to begin with? And that's just money. That's not trading, right? The two things are actually pretty separate. But when you compound what your negative belief system is about money, wealth, abundance with your negative belief system about trading, that's really difficult to overcome if you're constantly focusing on doubling the account, living off of your profits, whatever that big goal is. If your focus is constantly there, you have no eye for the path that's going to get you there. You've completely lost sight of what one foot in front of the other looks like. And if you've lost sight of that, then you're not really climbing toward that goal in the first place, right? You're just sort of dreaming about it. There's a big, big difference. And what I also encourage you to do is recognize that all of what we're really talking about here is putting together, certainly a plan for 2010 and what you're trying to accomplish in your trading. But what you're really saying to yourself is, what is it in my life? What is it in my routine that's going to take me there? I want to be about the process. And if you can enjoy, it sounds cliche, life is the journey, not the destination. So it's the same with trading. If you can enjoy the process that gets you there, eventually you'll just go, hey, look at this, I'm here. And it feels effortless. It doesn't feel like you're swimming upstream the whole time. So if you can engage yourself in the process of becoming a trader, what does that process look like? Well, certainly it's a lot of big things that feel overwhelming that maybe you don't want to do. But let me tell you something. When you really do get involved in your back testing, those of you who are just here today that don't normally come to my Tuesday sessions, you haven't heard my little soapbox I get on about back testing. And those of you who are here that do, you're probably sick of hearing it, but it is so critical to load some historical data, test out your ideas when you're not wrapped up in the fear of losing money, when you're not wrapped up in the greed of gaining money, when you're not wrapped up in all this emotional stuff that keeps you from making your plan possible in the first place, right? So if you look at if your back testing is feeling like something that, you don't want to do, but you can gauge yourself in the process of, okay, maybe I don't want to do it, but I'm going to start out with 10 minutes a day. And by the second month, I want to go to a half an hour. And then, maybe you can just gradually grow up. But I think what you'll find is when you start saying, this is something I can do, this is something I'm engaged in, you will get to the point where you go, you're making gains and realizations in your testing that you go, oh my gosh, okay, that wasn't it, but I think I could cut my losers if I do this. And you test the data again, and you make that one little change, and you get a little bit closer. You go, oh my gosh, that's working. Okay, how can I capitalize on these winners? And you go back and you do it again. Oh, holy cow, I'm getting there. Or maybe that was too much, but I know I'm right in that range, and I need to scale back on my aggressive money management or whatever that is. Pretty soon, you're loving back testing. Pretty soon, you're engaged in the process of learning how to trade in a manner that fits you, right? That's just so critical. You're no longer trying to just read a book and trade the way so-and-so trades. You are now engaged in the process of developing yourself into a trader. The other thing that I really encourage people to do, I've got some comments here. Let's see. Ash says, I enjoyed the journey and the process, but my wife wants to kick me out of my house because I'm losing for so long. Yeah. Well, then we need to stop putting our money on the line, right? The journey and the process we can do risk-free. We really can. We can do huge chunks of it anyway. I mean, there's no substitute for actually having real money on the line, but we can do it safely. We can do it without money. We can figure out, at least, if we've got our money on the line, we know that we have a high probability system. We know that it works in the hours that we trade because we just did it that way, right? There's certain things that you can start to put your mind at ease about as you're learning. Once you get to the point that you're trading with live money, that will help ease some of that. So yeah, if you're losing, stop trading. There's no harm in that. Take a step back, reevaluate. And that's what we're talking about today, right? Reevaluating, putting some goals in place. One of the big things that I like to remind people of is that it's really super easy. Tom says, get a new wife. Oh, stop. Now you, hold on. That was just plain silly. Okay. One of the other things that I try to remind people constantly is when we are excited about our new goals, when we say, okay, I want to backtest, but I'm not going to backtest just a few minutes a day. I'm going to backtest 2 hours a day. I'm going to make sure that I read, this news announcement or, this news source and this news source, and I'm going to comment and I'm going to engage in this process. And pretty soon people are so exuberant that they've overcommitted themselves in terms of what's really realistic, the time that they have, what they're really capable of understanding or being able to apply themselves to. And what ends up happening is the focus shifts so dramatically to their trading lives that everything else suffers. And you might be able to get away with that for a little while. But what will ultimately happen is that your real life is going to kick in and it's going to demand your attention. And usually that happens in very uncomfortable ways. Somebody gets sick, things blow up. I mean, I've seen it happen time and time again with students and colleagues, and it's just not pretty. So affirm to yourself while you're making these goals that you're going to keep your balance in the first place, right? If you have a wife and kids, if you have friends that you're close with, if you have a job that you like, but you're trying to expand yourself, whatever these other things are, make sure you're still investing in those. Make sure you don't leave those abandon those to the wayside while you try to figure all of this out. In part because those things will come back to bite you, but even more importantly, if those are the things that you love and those are the things you've chosen to have in your life, removing them from your life will deplete you. It will weigh heavily on you and work to detract from your efforts rather than add to them. Right? When we start to feel so focused in one direction, we're not refueling on these other sides. If we're not spending time with our children, we're not feeding that side of ourselves. If we're not spending time with friends and having great conversation and all these things that help us grow and develop and have always helped us grow and develop as people. Maybe it's not directly related to trading, but if it helps us grow as people, then when we abandon that, we've stopped fueling ourselves. We've stopped giving ourselves the things that are going to strengthen us, embolden us, and make us present and aware in trading altogether, right? Trading itself will just become so overwhelming that we dump it, and then we feel exasperated, and then we've got all the blame, guilt, and shame again, right? Only now we don't have the people around us anymore to fuel us back up because they're all mad at us because all we did was trade. So keep in mind when you're putting all of these things together that you really you want to keep that balance. If you're involved in your community or your church or whatever those things are, don't say, well, I can skip that meeting once a week and I'll replace it with backtesting time. Replace your TV, fine. Replace those things that are kind of mindless efforts, great. But the things that really do refuel you, make sure you keep those in place and make sure that you keep in your plan the things that you're honestly capable of. You guys are funny. Okay, so any questions so far? It doesn't look like it, so I'm going to go ahead and just keep moving forward. Really, this next slide I don't have to talk a whole lot about because it's pretty much the opposite of everything we just said, right? What doesn't work well is just to keep thinking, oh, someday I will live off the profits of my trading. That's not enough. It's just not, right? If you're not really looking at all those little things that are going to get you there, you're not going to get there. And if you become so involved in doing these daily checklists that you stop thinking about whether or not that checklist is getting you, you're not engaged in the process, and it's just a to-do list, you're not going to be able to make the changes necessary to the plan that are going to get you there. Last year, January 2009, I had on my list of goals for myself that I wanted to have the first draft of my book written by the end of the year. And I did end up writing the first draft of my book. I'm in the process of editing it. I need an agent, I need a publisher, I need all of those things, but I did at least accomplish that first goal. But let me tell you, the way that I got there was so different than the way that I originally mapped out. And if I had just stuck to my daily plan regarding that goal, and if I hadn't taken the time to say, is this really working for me? Is this really accomplishing the actual writing of the book? I would have never made changes to the plan. And I probably still would be right back in January 2010 where I was in January 2009. So you have to make sure that there's the plan, and then there's the purpose of the plan, right? I was telling my students when I did this presentation last week, my kids are so funny because I'll ask them, hey, will you run the vacuum upstairs? Sure. And I can hear the vacuum running. They're running the vacuum. I can hear them putting the vacuum away. They put the vacuum away. Great. I go up there to thank them for a good job. And there's still stuff on the floor, and the edges are still dirty, and, it's like they vacuumed around the stock that was laying in the middle, and, things like that. And I have to ask them, okay, guys, I know I asked you to run the vacuum, and technically you did what I asked you to do. However, what's the purpose of running the vacuum? It's to clean the floor. Now, I want you to take a look and tell me, is the floor clean? Well, no, not really. Okay, so we want to, as important as it is to have that vacuum, as important as it is to have this plan, if we're not following the purpose of the plan, if we're not actively engaged in thinking about what it is we're doing and why we're doing it along the way, we're not really accomplishing what we want to accomplish in the first place. Does that make sense? And then, of course, the opposite of everything we said on the other slide, too, overestimating what you're really able to put into your plan, right? Saying that you can commit more time than you actually have, or over-leveraging your connection time with self and service to others and all of those things, right? It's so easy to get caught up in that, especially when you start to make progress and you're trying to sneak in. You know that you're on the verge of finding a really great plan in your back testing, and so every moment you're sneaking in these little, I can just back test, one more week of data. I could just do this. Keep the balance all along the way. Stay in touch with reality. Stay in touch with what's going on around you. What's so funny to me is that the very reason why people choose to trade in the first place is the very thing they give up in order to learn how to trade. What I mean by that is that, people say they want to trade because they want to be able to provide more for their families. They want to be able to spend more time with their families and not work so much at home. They want to have more freedom, more options in their free time, and really commit themselves to finally learning how to play guitar, or finally, conditioning themselves for a marathon, or whatever these things are, these other things that, because a job can really make you feel like you've put your real life on hold just to make a living, right? And trading makes you feel as though that's something that is going to free up. And it does free up, let me tell you. It's a wonderful place to be when you have extra time and you're not stressing out about where the money is going to come from. It's a wonderful thing. But the time between that it's not happening and it does happen, Don't give up all of the things you say you're working so hard for. If you want more time with your family in the future, don't give up time with them now. At least not in the long haul. If you get on a run, you say, okay, this week I really want to dedicate this time. Put a time limit on it. Don't make that your whole year thing to just completely abandon your family or completely abandon your efforts to learn, I don't know, Taiwanese or, whatever that thing is you want to do for yourself. Don't give that up to do this because you will become imbalanced. You will get yourself completely thrown off track. And it really does, it's more of a detriment than it is a benefit. So let's say you've put together your plan, whether you've scaled it up, scale it down from a year to a month to a week to a day, or scale it up going opposite direction, starting a day and ending with a year. What do you even do with it? What we cannot do is do what we've always done, and that is make a resolution and just hope we stick with it, right? If we are not present in our process toward attaining that goal, we will not take steps to get to it. Because let me tell you, whether it's a healthy routine or not, we have a routine in our lives that we will fall back on when we feel pressured or when we feel overwhelmed or when we feel tired or sick or whatever those things are. And we will fall back on that and we will forget what our goal was in the first place. So what you have to do is just institute the one change into your day that says you're going to review it. You're going to review it for today. Every day you're going to review it. Maybe you even review it in the morning and in the end, at the end of the day, see what you can check off. Now, it's not enough to just look at it either. Again, staying engaged in your process. What's the purpose of running the vacuum? What's the purpose of reviewing it every day? If there is one thing that you didn't check off today, ask yourself why. Well, I didn't backtest today because I spent the day volunteering at the kids' school. That's worth it. Okay. As long as I don't make that a habit. If there's one thing that you're not checking off day after day after day, you need to ask yourself why. Maybe it's a time management issue. Well, what's going on with the time management? Even that's not enough yet. Take it one step further. Why is it I'm not managing my time well? Maybe I'm feeling overwhelmed, or maybe I'm feeling like I've just asked too much of myself. And you're gonna fight with your head and your heart for a while, asking too much of myself. I've done this. I've discovered that. I'm the best at this, and this. Asking too much of myself. You have a tendency to just be your own worst critic in such an incredible way that you stop sort of being constructive about that criticism. So you need to be able to say, okay, whether my head says I should be overwhelmed or not, maybe that's why I'm not doing this thing day after day. Okay, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, is it the goal that's overwhelming me or is it something else? And really engage yourself in a conversation about whether or not this plan is really working for you. Because if the plan's not working for you, you need to change it. It's okay to change it. It really is. It's necessary to change it. Our lives don't stay the same. Our circumstances don't stay the same. Our abilities don't stay the same. So why would the plan, right? But you have to keep checking in with yourself. I recommend to everyone to keep a journal. It can be kind of a pain in the neck. It can be kind of arduous. For those of us that are creative, we kind of put this additional pressure on ourselves to make our journal this beautifully written thing, right? This gorgeous work of poetry. Maybe someday somebody will publish my memoirs based on this journal. No, it doesn't even have to be all about that. Just write it down. Get it out of your head. Have these conversations on paper. You'd be surprised. These little brainstorming sessions that you do with yourself. You'd be surprised what they'll reveal. I had one listener, I believe it had to be at an FX Street webinar, my Tuesday thing, that said, I was surprised to find out I was so greedy. Now that is something that happens to a lot of people, but you'd be surprised at how few people realize it. They just don't see it in themselves. They'll justify it by saying, I was following my plan, and everybody says build on your winners, you let your winners run and cut your losses short, and I was doing, and they'll justify it, and all along what's really going on is this internal greed that they're not really willing to look at face on, right? Head on, face to face. So it's really important that you have some place that you have these conversations with yourself. Even better if you have a safe partner. It doesn't have to be somebody who trades. It could be your life partner. It could be somebody that you can trust with this information to go, you know what, honey, I did it again. I cannot believe I didn't close that out at my profit target and the thing reversed, and this is the third time I've done this week, and I don't know what's wrong with me. This is the person that, if it's somebody that you trust to be honest with you and still gentle, they can help you through some of the emotional stuff. If you have a strong trading partner, that's even better because they're going to speak the same language. Well, what happened at your profit target? What did the feedback candles look like? If you don't have that, I strongly encourage you to try to connect with one another. I saw before I came on to the webinar today, some of you were discussing with each other about oscillators and things. There's no harm in making a connection, going, you know what, you and I actually seem to kind of click. Do you want to be my trading partner? And that could be something that's on your daily checklist. Was I accountable to my trading partners today? But I strongly recommend that you have some kind of record of your process. Not only is it important as a part of your process, because it's going to help you have some of that that opportunity for self-discovery. It's going to help you kind of dial in to the little things, little idiosyncrasies in yourself that keep you from trading well and fix them. But it also serves as a great way for you to look back. Have I really progressed? Maybe January through March, your journal says, I can't believe I did it again. I didn't get out of my profit target. I got greedy, whatever the thing is. But maybe April through June, you go, I stuck to my plan. I used a hard profit target, and even though the price went on further, I'm telling myself I don't have to get every pip out of it. And then maybe July through September, it's a different conversation, but you'll have something to look back on. And again, building on that positive energy, say, yes, I did that. I accomplished that. And those are the intangibles, right? We can look at our account balances. We can look at our backtesting results. We can see how many hours we've been backtesting. We can look at all the quantifiable stuff. But when you're talking about the mental stuff, it's much harder to, you can't quantify it, but it's much harder to make it meaningful because you forget where you were. You forget how far you've come. And it becomes really difficult to embrace your successes and build on all of those positive things that are going on, especially when your belief system wants to keep pointing the finger at all the things you haven't accomplished. Right? So this is what you do with your plan. You review it every day. Check things off that you've done. Stay present in the process. If it's not working, you change it. And keep up with yourself personally. Check in with yourself. Make this whole thing meaningful to yourself personally. And I know those of you who do come to my FX Street Tuesday webinars, and those of you who are students of mine, you hear me say this. I write it on my blog at the end of every entry. I say it at the end of every webinar. Be good to yourselves. Be good to you. Because there's no substitute for that. And I know it sounds like just kind of a cute little sign-off or whatever, but I genuinely mean it. Because life is difficult, and we're faced with a whole lot of input day in and day out. And it can be really, really easy to let that kind of overwhelm us. And surprisingly, even the most confident of us have these little things inside of us where it's really easy to kind of abuse ourselves over, right? Especially when it comes to trading. You know you're capable, you know you're smart, and you can't make trading work for some reason. What is the deal, right? Don't beat yourself up. It's not going to be good for you. It's not going to get you there. Be good to yourself. If you're feeling depleted, go play a round of golf and refill yourself. Fill yourself back up with the good things that are going to empower you to accomplish the things on your plan. spend the time with the people in your life that make you feel good and make you feel loved. And if you don't have those people, end the toxic relationships and find good ones. Because when you are good to yourself, you can build on that goodness within yourself, and that radiates out to the people around you and helps them live by your example. Then they're good to themselves, and it has this wonderful, beautiful ripple effect. And you're really, when I've said this to my kids when they're faced with difficult decisions. When you do what's in your highest good, you're really doing what's in the highest good. And I don't mean selfish things. I mean what's in your highest good. Because what's going to happen is that your energy becomes stronger, and the people around you become stronger as a result of that, and they help the people around them because they're becoming stronger. We really can have that kind of long, lasting and emanating effect on the world around us, not just in our trading, but in our lives. And we're able to do that for our lives. It reflects in everything we do, including our trading. So I'm going to check one more time for comments and questions. But this is the end of my presentation here. And then, of course, I've got my website here if you'd like to come join the Traders blog and stuff like that. Tom says, yes, I didn't know I was greedy until I started trading. I've heard it so many times. It's true. So easy to get overzealous. And, I think sometimes, too, it's not even about the money. I think it's about the excitement when things are going your way and you're trying to get to that next level, or maybe you're close to a round number in your account, or, I think sometimes it's not even about the money. It's just, I can get more out of this, and you just get so excited. Sharif hit the nail on the head. Oh, man, this is exactly it. This is exactly it. Triffany, in your experience, what would be the best way to combine Forex goals and life goals and achieve some or all of them at the same time? Sharif, this is what I work on with my students in the Trader Development course, developing you as a person first, and then allowing you a fresh start to develop this kind of inner trader, this new person that moves you into becoming a good trader. Because what we are really trying to accomplish is exactly that, right? We don't want to lose our life to gain Forex, and we don't want to gain Forex, or we don't want to lose Forex, because we're trying to just live our lives, right? It's all about that balance, and it's all about staying present. And there's no short answer for that, Sharif. It's really kind of a compilation of things that you can, add in over time and allow that to happen. Tim, thank you. I'm glad you like my voice. Oh, that's funny. Good. Hardy Stacks, hello. It's nice to see you here. Great advice. Much thanks. Can we take a look at the euro yen and the pound yen? We're all greedy and intrigued about making money with money. Best thing of all. Well, I'm not here to look at any charts today, and I am nearly out of time. But certainly I will be here tomorrow at noon Eastern Standard Time, and I'd be happy to look at those for you guys. Yeah, I hope you got something good out of this. I'd love to hear your feedback. You can write to me at Triffany, Triffany, at triffafx.com. Let me know if this was helpful. If there's something you would have liked to have seen included in it. I like to hear from you all and know whether or not these things are working. And certainly, membership to the Traders blog is free. Feel free to come join a community of traders, constantly encouraging participation on the blog, watch list webinars twice a week. And if you feel like you're ready to kind of do that personal development piece that gets you past your own hang-ups, I'd love to have you in the Trader Development course. It's a 10-week course in small groups. The next one starts in March. But I'd love to have you there if that works out for you. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Maud, for letting me do this. Adinda, thank you for working so hard to get the recording and everything you do to keep that going through all of your other connections and everything. I know you guys are working so hard to constantly improve the services to your students at FX Street. And it does not go unnoticed, and certainly is not ignored. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Be good to you. Bye.